Hello, greetings, people who like to use logic to sift through all the information that come across you in a day. Today, the subject is going to be on UFOs or flying saucers, or nowadays they call it UAP, which stands for unidentified aerial phenomena. Because they want to be all-encompassing. They don't want to, just limit it to alien, craft. Okay, it could be any myriad of aerial activity, natural or otherwise. Okay, so they call it UAP. Okay, and what it is the latest information on UAP, which a lot of people still don't know about, which I'm surprised is all over the news, that would cause them to just repeat, the same thing for decades now. And that is, there's no evidence for UFOs and the yada, 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 yada. Well, today we're going to talk about the evidence and then sift through the evidence and kind of connect the dots to see what we can come up with. Because by definition, a belief is what? A belief is accepting something without evidence, right? That's a belief. A religion is a belief because you believe in a deity of some sort or a savior, but there's no evidence that that savior ever existed. The only evidence, which is not really evidence, is mentioning of that deity or that, God or whatever from a book, a religious text, usually the Bible or the Quran or whatever else. Okay, that's not evidence. At least that's not concrete evidence. So then if you still accept that whatever it is you believe in is true without evidence, then it's a belief, right? It's a belief. It's not something that is evidence-based. Well, UFOs used to be a belief, right? Because there's no evidence, or at least concrete evidence. Of course, they have a lot of sightings and people that claim to have seen it, and they, before the advent of movie cameras and video cameras, the film of these supposed objects are pretty scarce. You find very little, and when you do, it gives you more questions than answers. A lot of it is faked. Some were just, natural phenomenon, lightning bolts or whatever, the planet Venus or whatever else. Very not clear images. Okay, but nowadays with literally billions of cell phone cameras around the world, and you see more and more of these things, even though, again, a lot of them are of natural phenomena. That doesn't make them flying saucers, built by spacemen or anything like that. Okay, but recent years, okay, like in the past 2-3 years, there's concrete evidence that came out, verifiable evidence that came out of the existence of these very strange objects that do things that defy conventional physics. And the evidence were recorded by the most sophisticated military equipment sensors in history. We are talking about the top of the line, latest advanced Spy 1 radar equipment from the United States Navy. Okay, and gun camera images from the most sophisticated fighters ever built, and they jive with each other. Okay, so you got infrared cameras, military grade, okay, mil spec. You got radar, mil spec, the most advanced and most costly radar ever built. You also have sonar, okay, from submarines, okay, the most sophisticated sonar ever built from the United States. military. Okay, so they verified the existence of these things, these objects, with 3 different sensors using 3 different methods and waves: electronic, electromagnetic, or sound waves. Okay, sound waves being sonar. Okay, so it's undeniable that these things, whatever they are, actually exist in the flesh, in our airspace and sea space. Okay, the particular incidences I was talking about, the first one happened in 2004, involving the aircraft carrier strike group called the Nimitz aircraft carrier, off the coast of California here, about 70 miles off the coast of San Diego. Okay, 2004. Okay, they were doing some exercise, what they call workups, the U.S. Navy aircraft carrier fleet, and basically they're preparing for deployment to the Middle East. And 3 weeks, for 3 weeks they're out there, off the coast of California, doing mock combat and other exercises to prepare themselves to be deployed to the Middle East. So one day, these fighter jets, the F-18, which at the time was the most advanced aircraft in the Navy's arsenal, and at the time, it was not only the most advanced aircraft, it's the most upgraded. So right at 2004, they were flying brand new F-18 Hornets, the Super Hornets they call them, because they upgraded. They're not just the original Hornets, but the upgraded ones. So they have the best radar. They have the digital, what they call a phased array radar, which is a radar that is steerable electronically, so it can acquire multiple targets at the same time and hone in on targets very accurately from very far away. Okay, they also have infrared sensors on them. So one day, they were supposed to do a mock combat between 2 aircraft from the USS Nimitz against 2 other F-18 aircraft from the bases, the Marine Corps bases in California, in Southern California. So they're supposed to meet at the point in the sky they call a cap point, where they're supposed to do combat mock-up fights, and then they would return to their respective bases. Well, while they were up there, the Navy guys from the USS Nimitz, one flown by Commander David Fravor, the other one was flown by his wingman, or rather wingwoman, named Commander Dietrich. So they were doing 2 ship formations, and on their way to the cap point, when they got a message from air traffic control saying that they should suspend the training, and because they have a real world tasking. Okay, and they're supposed to fly west for 40 miles and report back to ATC, air traffic control, what they saw. Okay, they were not told what to look for. They just told to go out there and see what you find and then report back what you see. So, okay, it's just a routine type of training, I guess. And they both flew 40 miles west and find out. So when they finally got to the 40-mile point, they radio back and say, okay, we're here. And the radar operator, air traffic control, said, okay, now look around and report back what you see. Well, it was a very clear, sunny day, kind of like today, no cloud. It was like 12 noon, all sunny, and they could see for miles and miles and miles. Okay. Well, as they look around, they were about, I guess, 3,000 feet above water, above sea level. And Commander Fravor, he looked down, and all of a sudden he saw what he called white water in the shape of a down airplane. It looks like a cross, like an airplane with wings. And it's about the size of a 737, he said. So he thought, oh, okay, well, there's a down aircraft, and but then Just then, he noticed that there's an object, what he described as a flying tic tac. It's a shape of a tic tac. The breath mint tic tac. It's oblong shape, but it's about the size of his F-18, so about 40 feet long. It had no wings, no means of propulsion, no jet exhaust, no nothing, and it was like dodging up, all around above the whitewater, and he thought it was odd. He looked, he said, "What the heck's that?" So he saw it, his wing woman saw it, and he was like, "That's strange." He didn't see any control surface or jet exhaust or wings or anything of that sort. It's just an oval shaped, oblong, white object like a tic tac that's just dodging around. And so he was curious, so he told his wingman, "Okay, you stay up here, up high, and I'm gonna go down and take a look." So he turned his F-18 towards the object, and as soon as he turned towards the object all of a sudden was aware that he was there, because the object turned and started to follow him. So as he flew down, the object flew up chasing him. So they're going around like this in a circle. Well, after 2 circles, Commander Fravor decided, well, this is ridiculous. We're going to be doing this all day. So he said, okay, I'm going to break the circle. I'm going to, cut right through the middle of the circle and head directly towards this thing, and see what the heck it is. Get closer to take a look. Well, as he had closer and closer, when he got to about a mile of the object, it sped off extremely quickly right past his nose and disappeared. And it just like that, it was in a second, it disappeared. And obviously he was like, huh? Dumbfounded, right? So he told his wingman or wingwoman, "Did you see that?" She said, "Yeah, it's gone." So, and she was up high circling, so she saw everything. She looked down visually, saw everything. Okay. And so right then he got a call from the radar operator, the chief of radar operator on the USS Princeton, which is another ship that has a very powerful radar. It's called a Spy 1 radar. Again, is the most sophisticated, state-of-the-art, brand new, just came out in 2004. Okay, and the radar operator told him, "So you're not gonna believe this, but that object is now 60 miles away at the original cap point you're supposed to meet at." And so he was like, "Huh? How did they get there so quickly?" So then they were all dumbfounded. The object went from above sea level, and chasing Commander Fravor, and then it zoomed away to a point that is 60 miles away in like less than a second. So they're like, okay, by that time, they were running out of fuel. They were low on fuel, so they decided to return to their ship, to their aircraft carrier. And so when he landed, he told the other team that was going up to replace him to film the object if they could. So they did. They went up there with a camera, and they actually filmed the object, even though they didn't visually see the object, but they actually filmed the object in infrared. So they released the film. The film got out somehow, and it's all over the news from about 2017, something like that. So then, for those of you out there who are skeptical and kept insisting that UFOs or these objects, one, either don't exist or they some sort of a misidentified natural or common everyday objects. Let me ask you this, okay? What object, natural or otherwise, can zoom in a few seconds from where they were at to 60 miles away in just a few seconds? And not only that, Later, when they interview the chief of radar operation, okay, chief of radar operation, that means that guy had 20 years in the Navy being a radar operator, okay, so he's a chief, he's the head top guy, okay, and he said that for 3 weeks before that incident, they were tracking dozens of these objects flying at 80,000 feet, and some of them dropped from 80,000 feet to sea level in less than a second. Okay. At first, they thought that their radar was needs calibration. Okay. So they recalibrated and reboot the radar. Well, after they rebooted the radar, the image came out even more clear. So and then when they sent up the fighters actually saw visually these objects, or at least one object. So that proves that the objects that they've been tracking, for 3 weeks are real solid objects. Otherwise, Commander Fravor and his wingwoman would not have seen it, with their own eyes, right? In fact, they're not the only two that saw it. The other two, WISOs, they call them, weapon systems operators. Okay, so these are F-18, two-seat F-18s. Okay, so Commander Fravor has a WISO behind him, and Commander Alex Dietrich had another WISO behind her in her aircraft. So two aircraft, two F-18 fighter jets with two aviators each. So four of them. So four of them saw the thing, the object. Okay, so it's not like, oh well, one is drunk or whatever the hell people think they are, or visual, wrong. Commander Fravor, or both of them, or all four of them, actually flew around in circles, 2 circles. Okay, Commander Fravor did that, but the Commander Dietrich was up high. She saw that at different angles. So it's not like, oh, it's mirage. The mirage is when, like when you go to the desert, you see, like, it looks like water on the surface of a road, and then when you approach it, closer and closer, it disappears. It don't look like water, but at a different angle, it disappeared. Well, if this object was such a mirage, then when they turned their aircraft and flew around it, the object should disappear then, right? If it's just a mirage. It didn't. It was a solid object, and it was detected on the most sophisticated radar in the world. Okay, so ask yourself that question. Okay, what object, natural or otherwise? Let's say this thing is natural. Okay, how can it fly like that? Going from 80,000 feet down to sea level and then back up again in mere seconds. Okay, now understand, if an object drops from the sky, that means it could be a natural object, just an inanimate object, a meteorite, asteroid, whatever, a piece of satellite maybe even, okay, that dropped out of the sky. First of all, they would drop in a ballistic pattern, right? Because nothing but gravity is a force that caused it to drop. Okay, so it would follow a ballistic path. Okay, these things do not follow ballistic path, and they don't just drop out of the sky. They accelerate out of the sky very, very quickly, and then they accelerate back up. Okay, now if you accelerate back up into the sky, you have to fight against gravity. That means you have to have an internal source of energy, don't you? Okay, what natural objects have internal source of energy that would allow them to fly back up to 80,000 feet? It makes no sense. Okay, so then if an object flies up, that means it has energy, internal energy, to cause it to fly up. Okay, now you could say, well, okay, erupting volcanoes can eject rocks into the air, right? So the volcano and the rocks, exploding rock, has the energy that push it up. Okay, but there were no volcanoes around there. It's a sea. But let's say there's a volcano under the sea then. Okay, maybe there's an eruption under the sea. Okay, and it ejects an object up into the sky. Okay, then you have to explain how is it that the object respond to David Fravor's jets approaching it, and it turned, and it followed in a circle twice. Okay? Natural objects don't do that. Natural objects do not follow an aircraft twice. Okay? Not once, twice. So that tells you that it is under intelligent control. It is not an anomaly. It's not like, oh, it's just coincidental that it happens to just be flung across the sky in a curved pattern, and you never know. So first, it responded when Fravor approached. Okay. Secondly, it followed Favor's aircraft. Okay, twice in 2 circles before it sped off. Okay, so the conclusion is then that it noticed Fravor, right? That means it's intelligent, right? And number 2, it is under controlled power, right? It's under controlled flight. Okay, so then now we know. Now we know that whatever these objects are, they are not natural. They artificial. Now the question then becomes, okay, who built these objects? Okay. As far as we know, no animals on Earth build flying machines, except humans. Okay. Even monkeys, even orangutans, they can't build spaceships. Okay. Much less something that flies faster than we can build. Okay. Now that begs the question. Okay, let's see. Maybe it's a drone. People always say that. Maybe it's a drone from a foreign adversary, say China or Russia, right? Okay. If that's the case, let's take a look at the way drones fly. Okay. Most people, when they say the word drone, they picture, the kind that has cameras on it and you can buy from Amazon or from Costco with full propellers, that spin real fast, and then they hover around and they make a buzzing sound, and all that good stuff, right? That's what most people think of when they think of a drone. Okay. But a drone really means an unmanned aircraft. That's what it means, because drones have been around for decades. The U.S. Air Force and Navy use drones as targets. They're usually older aircraft that the military no longer uses, older manned aircraft, and so they put automated systems on it, and they launch it, and then it flies by remote control, and then fighter pilots can chase after them and shoot at them, or have a mock shooting at them. Okay, so those can be drones. So they can be of any shape. They can be a jet or a helicopter. A drone just means a remote controlled pilotless aircraft. That's what it means. Okay. Now, the Tic Tac didn't have any means of propulsion. It didn't have any exhaust. It didn't have any propellers. Didn't have any jets. Didn't have any control surface. Didn't have any wings. Didn't have anything that we would consider an aircraft. And it defies all kinds of laws of physics. So, we don't even know how it flies. How can it be a drone? Okay, you can say, oh, well, maybe China has a breakthrough, right? Or Russia, they discover something new that we don't know about. Well, there's a problem with that theory too. Okay, and let me tell you in a minute here. I'll pause because I have to charge my car, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're talking about propulsion. The possibility that these supposed UFOs, flying saucer, whatever you want, flying Tic Tac, are just drones from another country, say China or Russia. Okay, my argument is that it is not possible it came from them. Here's why. Okay, number one, if you look at all textbooks from anywhere in the world, from undergrad to grad to postgrad, you name it, look at any textbooks on aeronautics, no one ever described a craft that could fly without any reactive engines or control surface or wings of any sort. Okay, nowhere. Okay, Reactive engines are the ones that either spew out, okay, matter in the back, like a jet engine or a rocket engine, or a propeller engine, okay, that has a propeller that spins and basically pull the aircraft forward. Humans don't have any other way of flying other than those two. That's it. You know, so you either use Bernoulli's principle, which is a principle of the wing, basically lift, and propeller is just a wing. It just spins, the wing that spins, you know, in place. So when the propeller spins, it creates low pressure in front of it, because the propeller is shaped like a wing, you know, it's like a teardrop shape, and it creates low pressure on top and high pressure at the bottom. And so that's how the wing creates lift. So if you set a wing on a side, you know, like this, and you spin it, that's the propeller, okay? So when the propeller spins, it creates low pressure in front of it, and it kind of sucks it through the air. That's how, you know, and then you attach an aircraft, you know, on the propeller, the aircraft will move forward, okay? That's how propeller aircraft move through the air. With the rocket engine and the jet engine, they work on a different principle called Newton's third law of motion, which is you shoot out matter, you know, in the back, and the Newton's third law of motion propels you forward in the opposite direction. Okay, that's all. There's no other way we know how to lift an aircraft off the ground. Okay. UFOs, flying saucer, flying tic tac, whatever how you want to call it, has no such propulsion system. There is nothing that spews out from behind these craft. There's no propellers. There's no low pressure, high pressure, nothing. Okay? There's not even wings on there. Okay? Now you could argue that we have lifting bodies, right? NASA did a lot of experiments on lifting body back in the 40s and 50s. But basically, a lifting body is a wing. It's just the whole body of the aircraft becomes a wing. So it works on the principle of the Bernoulli's principle, right? It's aerodynamic, you know. That means it manipulates the shape manipulates the air around it, basically. Okay, so it's dependent on the air, all right? Flying saucers are not dependent on the air in order to fly. In fact, it flies just as well, even better in space. Okay, so it's the only craft that we know of that is what they call multi, for lack of a better term, you know, it can fly in water, in air, and in space. Multi-medium, okay? Doesn't matter what medium it's in, it can still fly. I mean, it's transitional. It's transmedium, they call it. Transmedium, that's right. Transmedium. That means it travels in any medium. Water, air, space, whatever. We don't have that, okay? Humans do not have transmedium aircraft. Right? We tried, but the resulting aircraft or the resulting craft is poor in performance in all of those medium. Not so with flying saucers, okay? So again, that points to these craft not being built by humans, okay? We don't know how to do it. There's no such technology anywhere in the world, not even by theory in textbooks. So how can some country come up with it, okay? Not only that, these objects have been observed for centuries, even millions of years ago. You know that? A lot of people don't know that. You know, in World War II. Okay, now you remember World War II was in the 40s, right? And back then, the jets and rockets were just in their infancy. The Nazis, Hitler had a lot of experimentation on, you know, rockets, right? The V1 rocket and the V2 pulse engine, jet engine. Okay, they were all in their infancies. Okay, back then most of the warplanes used propellers and piston engine. Like the P-51 Mustang, that's a piston engine aircraft. Okay, that was like the star of World War II. Same thing with the Japanese Zero. That was piston engine, propeller. They all propeller airplanes, okay? But yet back then, fighter pilots have observed and flew alongside, basically. They were pounced by these objects that had no such thing. No propellers, no jets, no nothing. Kind of like what they saw today, what they see today. Back then, they called them Foo Fighters, okay? And they thought that they were top secret Nazi weapons. But after the war, they didn't find such a thing in the Nazi arsenal. You know, they found some bell, shaped experimental aircraft that never flew really. Or if they did, they were not operational. Because if they had such technology, we all be speaking German now, right? When we all be saying "Heil Hitler" now, right? But we don't, okay? Because they don't have such a thing. If they did, they would have used it against the Allies, kill everybody, and took over the world back then. Okay, that's how powerful these weapons are, or these craft are, advanced. Okay, so we don't have that. Okay, we simply don't. So back to what I was saying. The bottom line is, these craft are real, solid objects. They are not imaginary. They're not mirage. They're not, anything like that. They're real, solid objects. Okay. Number two, they are not natural. Why? Because they respond when approached. Okay. They fly under intelligent control because they maneuver. Right. They chase after. They follow the path of our aircraft, for example. They zoom away when approached. Okay. So that tells you that they are under intelligent control. They're not natural objects, okay? And they produce their own power, obviously. You can't go from sea level to 80,000 feet and then back down again and up again for 3 weeks without having an internal power source. And, oh, by the way, you can't stay up for 3 weeks. No human aircraft of any sort can stay up, heavier than air aircraft, can stay up in the air for 3 weeks. Without refueling. There's no such thing. We don't have that. Nobody has that. Okay. So again, the conclusion is that these objects, whatever they are one, they're not natural. Two, they are not man-made. We don't have that technology. Three, they are under intelligent control. Okay. So what are we left with? We are left with the conclusion must be, has to be. Obviously, they are there. They are real. So that, we can eliminate the mirage theory, okay? So they're real. And as I said, number two, they are under intelligent control. That means they are built by some intelligence. Number three, those intelligence that built these craft are not humans because we don't have such technology. We just don't. Based on the fact that there's no such technology, even in theory, covered anywhere in textbooks, undergrad, grad, postgrad, you name it. Okay. Number four, these objects have been observed decades or even centuries ago. In fact, cavemen have drawings on cave walls that look like flying saucers. Okay. A lot of cultures have artwork that describe these things. Okay. So they've been around a long time, even before our technology, modern day technology of any kind. So then the conclusion has to be that these objects are not built by humans. They're built by some other intelligent form. Now, what are they? We don't know. Did they come from Earth? And is this intelligent form come from Earth somehow? And we missed them all these years, all these decades? I mean, we don't see their building structures or anything, right? Their houses, where they live. Some people observe these objects plunging into the water. Maybe they live underwater. So the other theory that I have would be that these are built by an intelligent race that came from Earth. But they live under the ocean, so we don't know them. We don't see them often in order to know they even exist. And I think if that's the case, then these objects, these beings, they're probably direct descendants of the dinosaurs. When the dinosaurs were killed out 65 million years ago by an asteroid or asteroids hitting Earth, some of these dinosaurs, of course, it wiped out the big ones, right? The small ones might just jump into the ocean, the amphibious ones. Amphibians. They jump into the ocean and they evolve in the ocean. into intelligence that built flying saucers today? I don't know. People who have claimed to have seen these beings describe them as grayish in color, small stature, bald head, big eyes. So that could be a clue to these things. These beings. They might have come from deep within our ocean. That's why their eyes are so big, because under the ocean there's not much light. So their eyes have to be big in order to see. And they're grayish in color, kind of like a dolphin skin, right? Dolphins are gray, right? Dolphins live underwater, okay? So that's the only other possible explanation that I could come up with to explain where these flying saucers came from. And of course, the other one is that they come from outer space. They came from another planet altogether. But the bottom line is, based on the evidence we have today, at least in my mind, it's safe to conclude that flying saucers are, 1, real flying objects. 2, they are machines of some sort. 3, they're not built by humans. So therefore, the conclusion is that they're built by some other intelligence other than human. Now, either the intelligence came from Earth or the intelligence came from outer space. So that's the conclusion. We have enough evidence now. And like I said before, a belief is accepting something without evidence. Well, now we have so much evidence, verifiable, cross-examined evidence of the existence of these things, that if you don't believe, that means you are actually not logical, right? You actually have a belief that these things don't exist. And your belief is not based on evidence at all. Because the evidence say otherwise. We have evidence now that says that these things actually exist for real, and they can do all these things that none of our aircraft can do. That's a fact. Those are facts. Now, you can deny it all you want, but I think a lot of people, like I said before, deny it because they failed. They didn't see the latest evidence. That's why they just repeat, what they were told or what they read about decades ago. They just say the same thing. They haven't seen the Nimitz incident. And after the Nimitz incident, about 10 years later, there was another incident off the coast of the East Coast, involving the USS Roosevelt aircraft carrier group. There they saw even stranger objects. They saw what they call a cube inside a transparent sphere. It's ridiculous, right? It's a cube, a grayish black cube inside a transparent sphere, flying around, almost hitting their aircraft, cuts right through their aircraft formation at high speed against the wind. So you can't say that, well, these are balloons, No, they're not balloons. They are self-powered. Do you know of any way of self-powering a balloon, a circle, a sphere with a cube inside it? How do you maneuver it around? It doesn't have any wings, doesn't have any exhaust of anything, of any sort, doesn't have any engine. How does it fly around? How does it maneuver around in the sky? How could it go right through an F-18 formation, right between two F-18s in a controlled manner against the wind? So, yeah, it's I think it's safe to conclude that these things are artificially produced, but they're not produced by humans, that's for sure. So, once again, just want to cause you to think, okay, look at the evidence and sift through the evidence and connect the dots instead of just accepting whatever authorities have been telling you all this time. They tell you not to believe and you don't believe, and if they tell you to believe, then you believe. Okay, just use your own mind, use your own brain to sift through these things and connect the dots and say, well, no, that doesn't make any sense. If this, then why is it like this? If what they say doesn't exist, then how come we detect it on different sensors, the most sophisticated military sensors in history? Radar, infrared, visual, optical, sonar. When these things plunge into the ocean, the submarines underneath the ocean detected these things by sonar. And the sonar operators actually describe how fast these things went. They went 500 miles an hour under the ocean. You know how fast that is? An airliner can fly 500 miles an hour, okay, in the air. All right, we don't have anything that even approach 30 knots underwater. You can't go that fast underwater. You know, not even not even 20 or 30 miles an hour underwater, much less 500. These things fly at 500 miles an hour underwater, as detected by sonar on these multi-billion-dollar submarines, okay, nuclear submarines underneath the ocean. So again, come on, man, you know, you can't deny these things. You can't argue anymore that these things are you know, are anything other than built by intelligent artificial machines, built by intelligent beings of some sort. So with that, thank you for watching. I hope it, like I said, caused you to think and use your own mind to figure things out. If you have any other explanation, you can write down below what you think it is, and see what we can come up with. Thanks again, and see you next time.